Week 16 fantasy semifinals for most of you, jumping into the rankings. As if you've seen these before, you should be familiar. We kind of break it up into tiers and separate players into just the type of player they are, the situation they're in. So let's get into week 16, starting off with the running backs, of course. And as always, we start with the number one overall tier. Not, the first two tiers, not much to talk about. It's guys that you're starting, but I'd like to separate, give a shout out to the guys that have been playing well this year. Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon, James Conner, I wanted to throw in here because I don't think we've had James Conner in here before. And man, he's been playing really, really well. He's the RB12 on the year. Back-to-back 20-point games and half PPR, which is pretty impressive. And you kind of look at since week 7, he's been awesome. And he's probably going to destroy the Panthers this week. And they're out both their linebackers as well. They're already a crappy run defense, and they're out both their starting linebackers. Josh Jacobs as well. And then the no-brainer tier, Chase Brown, Achane, Derrick Henry, Kyron, Chuba, James Cook, JT, Mixon, Rico, and Kenneth Walker. I was kind of thinking about this. I was like, how many of these guys would we have expected to be in here, when we drafted back in, not even draft, but like our whole preparation and stuff. Like
in the no-brainers, you mean?
Yeah, no-brainer and number one overall. I mean, number one overall, I think maybe no-brainer. I'd say there's a third of them probably, right? Chase Brown, Chuba, Rico, those three for sure, right? We never expected them.
Yeah. Even I don't know if we really. I think Achane was drafted kind of that way, but I think he's definitely exceeded expectations, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was the people who actually believed in him, and the ones who thought it was going to be more of a split with Mostert / the injury problems, and he's just been great. So,
yeah, he has. It's kind of funny though. He's kind of like definitely the people that believed in him were more correct, but he also, I feel like the people that did believe in him, maybe he's a slight disappointment. He's RB10 in points per game. I think the people that believed in him thought, RB1 overall type of stuff. Whereas the people that didn't believe in him were just worried about injuries and stuff. So he's kind of like, obviously the people that believed in him were more correct, but I feel like maybe he's a slight disappointment in the points per game. But anyways, he's awesome. Catches too many passes, and he can almost never bust because of that. You kind of just look at his game log, and since the bye week, he hasn't really busted in half PPR. So, and then I have a tier of RB2s here, and a couple of these guys. I mean, I feel like they're kind of no brainers, but you can let me know. Aaron Jones, Bucky Irving, and Rachaad White are together. I mean, we can just stop being worried about, they're gonna cannibalize each other or whatever. Like it doesn't matter. Brian Robinson, DeAndre Swift, Ramondre Stevenson, and then I have Kendre Miller in here, who should be taking majority of the snaps. I think he played when he took over. I think Jamal Williams only played in like 3 of the 27 snaps after Kamara left, and it was like 24 for Kendre and like 3 for Jamal Williams or something. So what do you think of Kendre, and are there any guys in here that you would actually bump up to no-brainer, like Aaron Jones or something?
I think Bucky kind of belongs in the no-brainer. I mean, even going into the last week, as like it was kind of like, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? And then obviously he did, and he was awesome. Better than Rachaad White still. Like they have basically equal opportunities. I mean, actually, they have the exact same opportunities last week. And he was just so much better, I mean, fantasy points. I'm talking about actual like on the ground production. Like Rachaad White got the touchdown, and so that put them very close fantasy wise. But that could easily have gone to Bucky. It was a receiving touchdown. So yeah, I think I would bump him up, and I think a lot of the other guys. I mean, like you mentioned Aaron Jones, like the workload, and he's actually been really good. So no like real worries there.
Mhm.
So yeah, if it was anybody, it would be probably those two.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, look at Aaron Jones. I definitely think Aaron Jones for me is the one I could easily move up. I mean, you just look at his game log basically since late October, and it's really only one game where he didn't have the only one game where he didn't have 15 touches. Only one game where he didn't have at least 2 catches. So it's pretty hard to bust when you're getting 15 carries and 2 catches or something. Like Bucky, I'm always a little bit like, man, how do I put a guy who's not even getting 50% of the snaps and is splitting half and half, as a no-brainer? I get it. Like, he's been so good on the ground. Like, it's funny because like I liked Bucky when we looked at him. I thought he was going to make an impact more in the passing game than anything, if he was going to make an impact. And that's just not what he's done. Like, I mean, he's been good in the past game, not like amazing. He's had a couple big games, and then kind of like the average what a running back who plays a lot gets. And then he's just been so good on the ground. It's crazy. Like his yards per attempt is pretty insane for 152 carries to average over 5.5 yards is good. So yeah, I generally agree with you. Like they're essentially must starts without calling them no brainer must starts, and
Sure.
maybe they should be called that. But what about Kendre? How are you feeling about Kendre Miller this week against? I forgot who they're playing now. I'll see right now. They're playing. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm glad you mentioned like what the snap share was after Kamara left, because I was at that Bucks Chargers game last week, and so I didn't get to watch a whole lot of football. So that's good. That sounds like he's going to be the guy, but I mean, I'm wondering how much they're actually going to be able to run if Green Bay gets up quick. Although the Saints have been playing better than I would have expected, kind of thing. I know that Carr is basically doubtful. I'm surprised like that they're even putting him in that category. It's like, why not just him and Kamara have? I mean, the Saints aren't really playing for anything, so just take the rest of the season off. It's really a bummer for those who had Kamara. Like, I've got him at least one place in a dynasty league, and he was a big reason why I'm in the playoffs still. So kind of a bummer there, but you got to pivot. Kendre Miller should be the guy, but I think I want to move him down into the flex category just because I think the Packers are going to run the points up on him, and he might not get as much on the ground. Like, I mean, the nice thing is like we just don't have enough sample to really know what he's going to do. It's like they could target him, obviously, and he could be Alvin Kamara Jr. kind of a thing, but there's just no confidence there. I think the only way you're starting Kendre Miller is if you're trying to hold out for Kamara and you have him as like a last ditch effort. But other than that, I think just you got to start other guys in front of him.
Yeah. So yeah, it was so Kamara before getting hurt played 24 of 27 snaps over the first 3 quarters. And then Kendre Miller played 3 during that. And then Kamara got hurt. There's 27 more snaps, and Kendre had 23 of 27. And he carried the ball 8 times and ran 15 routes. So that type of production generally leads to like at least RB2 stuff. But I get what you mean. Just like it's hard to trust someone. But, a lot of people are hyping him up for a reason. He is a talented guy, just could never stay healthy. I mean, just looking at it, this very small sample size here, he's averaged 5.8 yards. 4.1 yards per attempt in his career and 4.6 this year, but obviously pretty small sample size. So flexes, I mean, these are guys like if you're starting these guys and you are in the semis, they definitely like your last player on your roster. Like you have a bunch of studs everywhere else. It's just no one that really excites you. Jerome Ford, Pacheco, ETN, Najee, Jalen Warren. Maybe there's a couple other guys you can put in here, but it's just like, man, nothing exciting really. And, it's funny because like I hear people hyping up Jerome Ford a little bit. It's like, you guys realize we did have a sample size of like at the beginning of the year when Chubb wasn't there. And like Ford was just kind of whatever. Like he wasn't terrible, but he wasn't great. Like His best yardage was 85 total yards. He did have 7 catches in that game, so that was a good game. But other than that, it was kind of below. It was hovering around 65, 70 with 3 catches, 3 catches, and he had 1 touchdown. He has 2 touchdowns all year, so 1 touchdown in that first 5 weeks. So I don't know. He's kind of last year. He's like Mr. Consistent. He'll give you 10 to 12 half PPR points. So any of these guys particularly interesting to you or exciting or?
I don't know. I would start Jerome Ford over Kendre, honestly. The Cincinnati defense is not that good, and neither is Jerome Ford. But we do know what his role is. He is going to be the guy. I can't figure out if DTR starting is going to be better for Jerome Ford than Jameis. Probably, because Jameis is obviously a gunslinger.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they want to keep the ball out of DTR's hands a little more, so he gets 15 carries, maybe a couple of little check down things, maybe. And the Cincinnati defense is not anything to be afraid of, so I don't mind him as basically a high end flex. Pacheco, what was his situation last week?
Just didn't play enough. 37% of the snaps. He wasn't good. It was like they I think how it went was they were kind of giving him a majority of the touches and snap percentage in the first half, and he just wasn't doing well. He averaged less than 2.5 yards a carry, and then they kind of started to get Kareem Hunt a little bit more involved. Plus Samaje Perine, which, by the way, we didn't see Samaje Perine and Kareem Hunt really together that much, because Samaje got signed pretty late to Kansas City, and he hardly played the first couple of weeks, and then Pacheco got hurt, right, week 2. So just something to note there. Yeah, Pacheco got hurt week 2. Samaje was pretty. I forget when he signed exactly. He played in week 1, I believe, with the with them. I'm just double checking his. He had 15 and 14% of the snaps, so he got there pretty late. So yeah, it's just something to note there. We haven't seen this dynamic. It was kind of all Pacheco those first couple of weeks when he was good. But yeah, sorry, I kind of interrupted you there. But yeah. A lot.
Yeah, sure. No, that's good because it allowed me. I'm working off a single tiny laptop screen today, so it's helpful to stall a little bit while I'm sifting through tabs and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wonder. I mean, Kansas City, they need to win the next couple of games to basically lock that bye. Just to keep ahead of the Bills and everything. And so I think they want to play a little more now than later, especially their last game of the season in week 18 is Denver, who almost beat them. They should have beat them. Denver should have beat KC. I'm sure everyone remembers. It was a blocked field goal? Is that what happened?
Yeah.
To win. Yeah. So they got really lucky. That kind of, just made us all keep talking. It just gave us more ammo for the Chiefs, man, just everything goes their way. But maybe Pacheco gets a little more work this week with the Mahomes injury and everything. I know Mahomes is going to play, but maybe they try and, run the ball a little bit more, but they need Pacheco down the stretch for sure. So I don't think that this is the week to really start him unless you're really stuck.
Yeah. Like I said, if you made it this far and you're even contemplating these guys, it's probably your last roster spot, and hopefully you're pretty stacked.
Yeah,
unless you had injury.
Yeah, the nice thing is you you made it here with Pacheco on your roster, and you didn't need him, kind of a thing. I think the most attractive guy in this bunch is probably Najee, but the matchup is terrible. So
yeah.
It's you can't even really say that.
Yeah,
maybe Jordan Warren's actually the move.
Maybe in PPR.
Yeah.
Maybe. I know we kind of ranked this with half, but desperation flex. We don't really need to spend too much time on these guys because I don't think a lot of teams that made it this far unless you're, deeper leagues and stuff, but they are what they are. Like, you could get something out of them. They're getting touches, they're getting some work, but they're not going to be winning you your weeks most likely. So unless there's a guy in there you disagree, we can kind of just move on to the last two stuff, which we can actually have a little bit of conversations about.
Yeah, I mean, it's my favorite is, I mean, it's probably Alexander Madison, but yeah, there's not a whole lot to say there. Like, if you're starting him, yeah, he better be like your 10th guy or something like that. Like, it's gonna be hard to know if it's an Abdullah game or a Madison game. Like, we've both seen them kind of do the disappearing act. The Raiders are just absolutely terrible, which is always fun to say, just to remind everybody. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, who is Aiden O'Connell gonna play? Oh yeah, full participant yesterday. I mean, there's no reason not to play him. Like, Ritter is just, yeah. If it's Ritter, I feel better about Abdullah, just like given like how he played last week.
This is the number one pick bowl. Vegas is number one pick right now. Jacksonville's number 4 pick. So
yeah.
Yeah, this is like the battle for that. So I think, I don't know, nothing sexy, really.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Sexy. We said we weren't going to talk about it, and then I started rambling.
So yeah, these two guys I'm interested in. Breece Hall. So Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis were on the injury report, both with a back, interesting enough. But they're both full participants today. Officially, Braylon Allen's questionable and Isaiah Davis doesn't have a status. So I don't know. I guess Braylon Allen's is a little bit worse, but are we just putting Breece in the no-brainer? He didn't play a whole lot last week, and not as much as he was coming back from the injury. It was kind of questionable whether or not he was going to play. So I don't know if that kind of factored in. He played 48% of the snaps, 9 carries, 2 catches. Is he more of an RB2 at this point? Like, where are we putting him?
Honestly, he's probably one of the worst of the RB2s. I can't necessarily say that because I definitely like him more than Kendre. I like him more than Ramondre.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone else I would start over him. Like, I kind of put him as low end RB2. Like, I feel like his injury is concerning for sure. Like last week, he obviously didn't play a ton. I don't know if we're going to necessarily see anything different. The Jets aren't playing anything or playing for anything. It was kind of concerning, like, just seeing him play, half the snaps basically last week against Jacksonville and just not being very good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the injury it's still there. There's no real reason to keep going, I guess. Like, I mean, the Jets got to be eliminated by now, right?
Yeah, they're eliminated. It's more of just they want to maybe just playing because you want to play.
Sure. Like, and I know the players want to play, for their contracts and stuff, but it's like, man, like
the issue with him. Sorry, if you can finish that.
No, yeah, I was just gonna say the what we would have expected from Breece last week if he was actually good to go, which I don't think anyone necessarily thought, and I don't know if we think any different, is basically, all the good running backs who were playing against Jacksonville were good, like Montgomery and Gibbs, like about a month ago, just everyone was good. Mixon was good. Pollard was good. Like, Breece Hall should be right there with averaging about 5 yards a carry with these guys against this terrible defense, and he just couldn't. Like, so
yeah. But the issue is, like, because if you look at every game, basically over the last 6 games where he played a full snap share healthy, he's a must start. He's getting you at least 80 plus yards with multiple 3, 4, maybe even 6 or 7 catches, and then always touchdown threat. Like, and so is he going to play a full allotment of snaps? Like, if he does, then I think he's kind of a no-brainer. I think just the good middle ground there is probably just in the RB2 section and just.
And none of us are going to know before the game, like, the talent's obviously there. But like you said, like if he gets a full allotment of snaps, but I remember them talking about his injury during their bye week, where it's like, oh, we think Brees is going to be back, and that was, that was 3 or 4 weeks ago. And so there's obviously something nagging there. And again, they don't necessarily need to like run him into the ground kind of a thing. Like, I get it. Players want to play and stuff. And, like Devontae and Rodgers, like they want to play. They don't want to just lose games, but I mean, the Rams defense is tough to say the least. Like against the run, they've held a lot of guys to less than 4 a carry. Saquon doesn't count. So it's a little concerning. The matchup isn't great. We don't know about the injury status. So, but if he is one of those guys that help you get here, though, most likely. So that's what I'm saying. Low end 2, but I wouldn't feel great. I wouldn't mind basically starting most of our RB2s over him.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go down to the flex category, though. Like, I'm not starting Ford, Pacheco, ETN, Najee, Jalen. I'm not starting any of those guys over him.
I'm probably starting him over everyone pretty comfortably, besides Aaron Jones and Bucky, maybe. So, Patrick Taylor, I mean, Garendo did officially get ruled out. It's tough to know. Is it going to be Patrick Taylor? Is it going to be a Bandy Kanda? Is Patrick Taylor just like a special teams guy? Just for reference, like Patrick Taylor's been in the league since 2021. He got a decent amount of work in 2023, 132 carries, but like he has 79 carries to his name in 4 years. Like teams obviously used him or value him more as just like a special teams guy. So is he just throw him in the flex and you pray you got something, or is he just like outright bench and you got to wait and see?
I mean, again, the matchup is not very great. Let me pull that up. I know they're playing Miami, but that's what I have in my notes. Like he's a low end flex. I think I'd probably put him in the desperation flex category, but because like you said, like he's been around for a while. No one's really wanted to give him a whole lot. But he could be the dude for the San Francisco offense who are trying to claw their way into a playoff spot. Like, so it's tough. Like, I'd start basically like he definitely belongs down in the desperation flex for sure, because I would start for Pacheco, ETN, Najee, and Jalen over him for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, injury guys. I mean, Pollard has been dealing with the injury. If Pollard plays, I'm basically starting him, whether you want to call him a no-brainer. He didn't practice all week, so that's a concern, but I think he did that last week too.
He did, and he was great, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Last week.
He had a lot of carries. He got a touchdown. He actually wasn't efficient. 17 for 45.
So not great. But
yeah, but he got the touchdown and
saved his bacon.
You could throw him in the RB2. Tajay Spears, obviously, if Tajay Spears or if Pollard doesn't play, then Tajay Spears kind of replaces him in that RB2. Is he like a flex option? Like considering maybe they go easy on Pollard a little bit. They gave Spears, who he was actually better, by the way, last week because he had a couple long catches. He had 6 catches for 87 yards and a touchdown. Does he become like a flex even with Pollard there? Kind of, questionable.
Yeah, I think so. Low end flex, probably closer to the desperation flex. But I'm definitely not feeling great about it. At least we've got Mason Rudolph this week. I don't know if that's a good thing. Like we didn't see any games with those two together. But Pollard had a decent, I guess it didn't really change. I was looking at his target share that week. Like it was pretty consistent, or those weeks when Rudolph started. But I think Rudolph is probably more likely to move the offense a little bit cleaner. And like there shouldn't be as many turnovers with Rudolph, or at least not, less sacks and stuff like that. He's more aware. I mean, everyone's more aware in the pocket than Will Levis. He just can't see defenders coming after him.
Yeah. Charbonnet, if he plays, which he was limited yesterday, I'll throw him in the flex and probably move like Kenneth Walker down to the RB2 range or something. Maybe swap him with like Aaron Jones. But that's kind of how I feel about that situation. It will be interesting to see because we haven't really seen Walker back with after Charbonnet's kind of gone off. So will be interesting to see that dynamic there.
We've seen it in the past. I mean, Charbonnet. So Walker missed weeks 2 and 3. Charbonnet was pretty good one of those weeks, very involved in the passing game still both weeks. That's kind of what he does. And then as soon as Walker came back, like it was just like, oh, it's the Ken Walker show again, kind of like as far as like he's the 1A or the 1 to Charbonnet's 2. So it'll be interesting to see, like, obviously, like Charbonnet kind of similarly had one really good game and one good enough game this last week since Walker's been out. So I wonder, I feel like it's going to go back to Ken Walker, like, and a 60-40 split kind of thing. Obviously, Seahawks really need to keep winning to try and win their division. Like they're tied with the Rams in record, but the Rams have the tiebreaker right now. So every game is super important for these guys, and I think they're going to keep doing what has worked for them in the past, kind of to get them here. Yeah,
and then Tyrone Tracy RB2, I'd say if he plays. So hopefully he does. Into the receivers here. Again, no brainers. We have Puka, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans. You're starting those guys. Mike Evans is going to get his 1,000 yards in season again.
I hope so.
Sorry, that's number 1 overall. He will. No brainers is AJ Brown, Nico Collins, Amon-Ra, Devontae Adams, BTJ. Terry McLaurin, Malik Neighbors, even T. Higgins, I threw in there. I mean, maybe you can move him down a tier, but I think you're starting T. Higgins for the most part. So the guys I really want to focus on here is, or not really focus on, but really hard to bench guys, in my opinion, but guys that disappointed two guys that disappointed last week, and maybe you're not even in the playoffs because of them.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp with the goose egg. Tyreek Hill, I think he had like 2 or 3 catches. But hard to bench, really hard to bench. He still had 7 targets. And then Drake London with Penix. So, I'm firing all these guys back up personally if I made it. Because that also means I probably have a pretty good team if I made it without, Drake London was fine. But he got the stuff. But are you any worried about like Penix, or do you think it's going to be kind of similar to what we saw with Cousins, or can't be worse?
Yeah, I don't really think it can be worse. Like I think you were kind of saying in our group chat with our dad, we're like, well, at least he can. What was it? It's like, oh, he can throw like a little out route like pass. Like fucking Cousins can't do that, or I can't remember exactly what you said.
Can't even like when you see him under center. And he has to run to the running back to get him the ball. It's just painful to watch. Like, I think it's affecting Bijan too, just like having to wait for Cousins to give you the ball before you can really get going. It's just, it was tough.
Yeah, I know it is sad to see like all these like great players locked in this offense who've actually they've been good, like Bijan, Drake London, Mooney, like they've been good this year overall. But it still hurts because it's like, I know they can be so much better. So yeah, I don't think it can get much worse. And we might regret that. Saying that, like, oh, how bad can it be? Because we've seen some rookies come in that are just absolutely terrible. But I have faith. That it won't be worse.
Yeah. Next here, high floor, high upside. And these guys are just getting a lot of volume where you just look at their game logs and they don't really bust too often. I mean, and they're just getting a lot of work. It's JSN, Juwan Jennings, DJ Moore, Garrett Wilson, Zay Flowers, Addison Myers. Like these guys are just getting 7, 8, 9 double-digit targets. They're getting catches. They have the upside. I mean, even guys like DJ Moore, like 8 for 46, 6 for 49 the last 2 weeks. Like it's a pretty safe floor when you can give me 8 for 97 with 16 targets and a touchdown. So, and again, these guys are like generally you're going to continue to start them. Any one guy in particular you're hesitant on or you like more than the others?
I mean, just seeing like what happened last week, like Jacoby Myers really like he ended up pulling it off at the end. He's actually the reason why I got knocked out of one of my playoffs because it was like, oh, I just need him not to get a catch. And that's basically what he did the entire game until that last drive. I mean, he had a couple already, but it was just like, man, I need him to do nothing. And then he got 2 catches on that last drive that I was going to say didn't mean anything, but actually the Raiders could have won that game. He makes me really nervous if it's Ritter again. He just can't do it. I mean, you're still starting him. I think the upside, I think he becomes basically, I would move him down as like a wide receiver 3, probably like a low end 1 if it's Ritter again. But it sounds like O'Connell's going to play, so that makes me more confident for sure.
Yeah, it was 3 of his targets and catches came on that last drive. So
yeah, and how much of his 59 yards or whatever?
Yeah, probably most of it.
Yeah, definitely. Like he had one of those catches was more than 20 yards. So
yeah, it was 22 and 33 of his yards came there. So sorry, only 2 of his catches came in that last drive there. So basically he would have went 3 for 16. But I mean the targets were there. So at least, some of them and but yeah, I'm still fine with starting him, like even with Ritter, like as a high floor, high upside guy. So, but I get being afraid, having to trust him. Guys with probably maybe even more upside than a lot of the guys above, but there's a floor in my opinion. Devontae Smith, Calvin Ridley, DK Metcalf. These guys, they kind of have that floor that we've seen recently. Devontae Smith did have a good game, but before that, it was under 40 yards in 3 straight games and only 4 catches. 4 catches was his best. Calvin Ridley, I think it will be better with Mason Rudolph, hopefully. I don't know, but he's had a couple 2 for 45 type of games. Maybe he has a little bit safer of a floor than we think, but and then DK Metcalf has been not great for a while, 3 for 28 last week. So all these guys can win you your week though. So I generally like starting them if I can, of course.
Sure.
Wide receiver 3s, Shakir is just Mr. Consistent. He's been awesome. Like this year, he's been kind of the best receiver for the Bills. Basically, he doesn't have a game since October 20th under 7 targets. Doesn't have a game under 4 catches. So he's almost like PPR. He's almost bust proof, or basically is. Jerry Jeudy with TPR as the quarterback scares me. Keenan Allen, who maybe I should move up because if you look at Keenan Allen since the offensive coordinator change happened, he's been like a top 15 receiver. So he's been really good for kind of 4 straight weeks. I mean, he had 1 dud game in there, but I think it was 4 weeks since the offensive coordinator took over. Marvin Harrison Jr. It's like FOMO there. Adam Thielen gets a lot of targets. Xavier Legette's out. Jameson Williams gets some good volume, and they probably need to have shootout games. We'll see against Chicago, but their defense is banged up. So, any guys you want to talk about there?
Yeah, I feel like Marv is getting the pass. Like like, because like you said, the FOMO, like, I mean, just rewind like a couple of weeks and we were saying the same thing about Tank Dell, and I know we're just kind of like leaving him for dead kind of a thing. We know the talent's there, and it's like, I think people are still holding on, like, well, I drafted him as my first receiver, and it's like, man, like, that was so long ago, you know, and it's like, the future is probably better than the present. I'm not feeling great about it. Again, Arizona, they still have like a good shot at making the playoffs, you know. That division's all pretty close. I don't think they can win it necessarily, or I don't think they will anyways. But yeah, I guess you're still starting Marv, I guess.
Maybe, like, yeah. You're right, though. We do give him a pass because, like, yardage-wise, he's had 2 good games this year. He's had 2 games over 65 yards this year. That's not even that's a pretty low bar, too, you know? He's had 1 game with more than 5 catches, you know? Like, that's not great. He'll be an interesting conversation to talk about in Dynasty. So maybe he should be more of just like a boom bust or somewhere else, you know, and just kind of like, if you made it this far, you probably have other guys you can start over him. So
yeah, and we definitely thought he was going to be like the dude, like because we've seen what Kyler Murray has done in the past. Like, think about what he did with DeAndre Hopkins when he was there, where it's just like, oh, I'm just going to throw him the ball like 14 times a game, kind of a thing, you know. And it's like, oh, that should happen with, you know, this young stud. But we just haven't seen that yet. You know, it's been James Conner is the engine of that offense for sure.
Trey McBride and Conner.
Yeah, I forgot about McBride for whatever reason. Like, he's the number 1 receiver on the team.
He is, yeah.
Which is just wild, you know. But yeah, I think he probably belongs in that whole low floor, mild upside category. I guess I'm just making a new one. I guess that is what wide receiver 3 is.
Well, I did create a new tier that we can talk about in a bit. And it kind of like, well, we'll knock out the boom bust guys and we'll get to that tier. But boom bust, I mean, you can argue some of these, but Jaden Reed, Darnell Mooney with Michael Penix, I probably look at him like that, maybe as a wide receiver 3. Christian Watson, that's just kind of who he is. Rashad Bateman, you know, he has good games every now and then, and you know, 3 for 80 and 2 touchdowns. You know, tough to start these guys, MVS, you know, guys like that, but it's just who they are. They're boom bust. So you kind of know what you're getting into with them. So,
yeah.
But I kind of create this new tier of like, you probably need a touchdown, basically saying like, these guys are getting work. They're getting catches. They're not going to bust most likely. But also you're just like, it's not doing anything if you're not really getting a touchdown. A couple of these guys, that's not necessarily true for, maybe. But like, you know, Romeo Doubs is like the perfect example of that, where it's just like, if you don't get a touchdown from Romeo Doubs, I like him because he's always playing and he has, like, you know, probably the best opportunity for that team in terms of just being out there a lot, you know, to catch a touchdown. But if you don't get a touchdown, you're going to be very disappointed with what he's going to give you. You know, Josh Downs, maybe that's a little bit different. I don't know. DeAndre Hopkins has kind of been like that since coming to the Chiefs. You know, you look at his, he did have a 4 for 90 game without a touchdown, but you generally need a touchdown. Roma Dunze, Worthy, who is getting more work and stuff, but it's just not like, you're not super happy with, you're not happy or not angry with a 5 for 41. And then, you know, Pittman's probably one that maybe doesn't belong here. I don't know. Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe we can add him here. So my new category, do you think is there anyone in here that kind of doesn't belong?
No, I mean, that's about right. I mean, they all have their warts, right? Like, Dobbs is the crowded receiving room. Kind of the same thing for Dunze. Like, he is the number 3 guy on his team, but he does get the red zone opportunities, you know. Like, I can't remember if it was quite a drop because I was driving home during the Packer game, so I wasn't really watching it. I was kind of more listening to it. on that end zone target for a Dunze. Wait, no, they didn't play the Packers last week. That was Seattle. But no, they were Monday night. They were Monday night, so I did watch it. I think it was a drop in the end zone. But anyways, yeah, Pittman and Downs, obviously, like they have quarterback issues. Like that's not what the team. Like you can't trust Anthony Richardson for either one of those guys, but it can definitely happen. Alec Pierce did get ruled out, but he doesn't really play the same as them, so I don't think that really matters. Like,
yeah,
Kansas City, geez, man, like there's a reason why these two guys are in here. Are they even going to get a touchdown? No, I'm just kidding. I mean, yeah. And Marquise Brown's back this week. I don't know if that necessarily will affect these guys, but it's just one more guy to take or to pull some of these guys off of the field. So I think it all makes sense.
Yeah. And then Deontay Johnson will be on the Chiefs here soon. So guys we're benching. We're finally benching Tank Dell, Demario Douglas, Elijah Moore, Nick Westbrook, Akine. We don't need to talk about those guys. Like maybe they still on your team, but you're benching them. Now we have these four guys that I'm curious about. Jalen Coker, he came back and kind of like resumed his role. Like he was playing well before he got hurt, decently well. He's playing a lot and he's getting targets, and then he comes back. He gets 4 for 110 and a touchdown. Xavier Leggette's out. Where does he go? Does he go into the bench or needs a touchdown? Or
yeah, probably needs touchdown. I think it's hard to really know. Like I think he's gonna need a touchdown. Like they're playing Arizona, which is like I'm assuming they're middle of the pack. I don't have that up. Against wide receivers, I feel like they're not a team we ever really talk about, like, oh, be scared of them or anything, or they're a good matchup. So not feeling great. He's probably on the bench, and hopefully you can survive the week and play him against Tampa Bay if he has a good week.
Yeah. Yeah. Murray Cooper, I think you just have to bench. Like he had no targets last week. He played 50% of the snaps. They literally won 48-42, and Amari Cooper had no targets. Like, you just got to bench him.
Josh Allen's going to beat New England, maybe Amari Cooper will be involved in that, but there's no way of knowing.
Debo, what are you doing with Debo? Is he boom bust? Because we know what he's capable of, but he just hasn't really boomed. Is he needs a touchdown? Because he does get something, he gives you 35 total yards with 2 catch. I don't know. He hasn't had more than 35 yards since November 10th.
That's so crazy.
Total yards, by the way. Total yards.
So crazy to think about that we got this far down the list and I didn't even think about Debo. He's man, I have him in a few leagues, or I had him in a few leagues that were one that was really deep where I had to start him, and another one, I had to start him because of injuries. I'm sure he'll work a little bit more in the run game this week to try and keep the playoff hopes alive, but I am not feeling good about that at all. Probably needs a touchdown to get you. We know what the talent is in the past, but it's just been so long since we've seen it, and that dropped would have been a touchdown pass last week would have really changed that game. It would have been the only touchdown in the game if he caught that thing, and it's just rough out there in them streets.
Yeah, what's crazy is this run of just not playing well. It happened shortly after Ayuk went out for the year when we thought he was just going to go nuclear. He was better with Ayuk on the field. Just kind of crazy. And then Jalen McMillan is an interesting one. 2 good games back to back. We know Tampa Bay needs, that other option, with Godwin out. Cade Otton's out, by the way, or he's doubtful or questionable or something. But McMillan, he's playing. He's had 13 targets the last 2 weeks. Over the last 2 weeks, 9 catches. So 59, 70, and 75 yards, 3 touchdowns. Is he in that I don't know, wide
Probably
receiver
needs a
3,
touchdown.
needs a
I
touchdown,
think,
but you're okay like starting him.
yeah. If I'm really desperate, like I think he's one of those guys like maybe a low end wide receiver 3, but probably needs a touchdown. You know, I wouldn't call him boom bust because that's just not what he's been. Like, but you know, 2 games, we're going NBA Jam rules, right? Like one more, and then he's on fire. But he needs the touchdown, right? I mean, he got 2 a couple of weeks ago against Las Vegas, and he basically got you about 20 points. You know, so. I mean, not that that's bad, but it's like usually 2 touchdowns, you're more closer in like the 25-ish category. Like he's had good touchdown luck, I guess is a better way to say it. I mean, the matchup is juicy, you know, like with the Falcons winning somehow against the Raiders. God, they look terrible. You know, obviously, like they're neck and neck with the tiebreaker over Tampa Bay, but I think they're at least 1 game behind. But so they can't let their foot off the gas for sure. Like they don't have their playoff road like paved in gold yet, the Bucks. So
Yeah,
they got to go in there and beat the shit out of Dallas, hopefully.
Yeah, for sure. But that will wrap it up. Good to see from Jalen McMillan, though. Ooh, took you off. You know, like with these, just thinking dynasty, and we're gonna do like a review over some of these guys. But like these receivers, especially receivers that you take that were drafted in like the 3rd, 4th round of the NFL draft, that you're taking in the 3rd, 4th round of your rookie draft. It's like, man, just show me something that I feel okay, like not dropping you, like right. And so it's nice to see, like, all right, I've seen something from Jalen McMillan where it's like, I can see that, I can build off of that type of thing and justify holding him. So, but we will wrap it up. Hopefully, you will make it to your championship. We have 2 games tomorrow, so make sure your lineups are set for then. We'll be live tomorrow, an hour before the first game, and yeah, join us there, and we will see you all tomorrow morning.